Collectibles AMA, Ask Me Anything. Tonight in our studio, we have CEO of Collectibles, Toby O'Connor, and Neil Bucket, who is the representative of Kiwi Art Group. Welcome to the studio, Toby and Neil. Welcome. Um, Look, tonight our very special guest would like to talk to us about William John Kennedy, and I would like to ask. I've seen the film. I've read up about uh, Mr. Kennedy, and it sort of got me interested about his relationship with Andy Warhol. And some of you may not know Mr. Kennedy, but I'm sure you all know Andy Warhol. So Neil, I would just want to know how did your relationship with Mr. Kennedy comes about?
Okay, well, hello everyone. That's a very interesting question. So here I am in London. I am a prolific collector of art and sporting memorabilia, and my story of getting to know William John Kennedy started in about 2009, which is about 13 years ago. And my best friend in Miami called me up and he said, Neil, I found something that is just up your alley. And he told me the story of how he was introduced to then a photographer who was 78 years old, William John Kennedy, living in Miami. And he had come across that he had these lost archive of photographs that were taken in the early 60s when William John Kennedy was a commercial photographer in New York. And he had befriended Robert Indiana and Andy Warhol. And this is before they were famous. And he was just a jobbing commercial photographer in the early 60s. And here he was having access to the Coenties Slip studio where Robert Indiana was creating his future art pieces, and also the factory where Andy Warhol was going to create his masterpieces, which we know now. And the story is that when he had this unlimited access, he took these unbelievable photos. And when Robert Indiana and Andy Warhol became famous pop artists, William John Kennedy just kept on going as a commercial artist. And the longer and longer away from the early 60s, these photographs were just forgotten and lost. And they were kept in a cardboard box above his wardrobe for over 40 years. And the story goes that in 2008, 2009, Andy Warhol, the foundation, brought out a big coffee table book, which basically was a pictorial book which showed the story of Andy Warhol's life in pictures. And in this book was a massive photograph of Andy Warhol looking through the Marilyn acetate. And this is the picture that you see behind us here. And he said, that is my photograph. How did they get that? He said, and the thing was, in the book, it was because no one knew who took the photograph, it was attributed to another photographer. So by thinking, how can he prove that this photograph was taken by himself, he remembered the box of negatives that he had above his wardrobe. He found them, brought them down, and sure enough, he found the original negative of this amazing photograph. So what he did is he approached a few publishers, and one of the publishers was my best friend, and they were amazed at the quality and the importance of these historic photographs. And they decided that we're going to make a film about the photographer, which told the story about how these photographs were taken and how William John Kennedy was about in the early 60s before these famous pop artists were famous. So if everyone is with me so far, a film was made in 2010 called Full Circle, and we've actually got it playing in the background. And it's an unbelievable piece of film, because in the film, it goes back and they interview people that were in the factory at the time that these pictures were taken. So it was just like in the today's world, where the entourages and celebrities hang around these very important A-listers. So there's people like Taylor Mead, Ultraviolet, and also most importantly Robert Indiana, because Robert Indiana was still alive at the time of the film, and he was living as a recluse in an island off the Miami coast, an island called Valhalla. And in the film, they get to, the photographer William John Kennedy gets to meet Robert Indiana, and they hadn't met for over 50 years. And they acknowledge the importance of these photos. So it's a great film, and we've got snippets on the collectibles site. And I'm sure if anyone wanted to see the full version, that can be arranged. So the publishers, Kiwi Arts Group. A Kiwi Arts Group stands for Kennedy the Artist, I Indiana, W Warhol Initiative, Kiwi Arts Group. So what they did is they picked what they thought was the best 100 images of thousands of images that William John Kennedy had in his cardboard box. And what they did is they decided they were going to do limited editions of 60 of each image. So 100 images, limited editions of 60. And all of these images were going to be signed and numbered by William John Kennedy. So while all this was happening, the Andy Warhol Museum heard about these images. They saw these images and they were shocked about how good they were and how valuable they were as not only photographs, but as historic works, because this was the first time they'd actually seen images of the artists creating their masterpieces. And the Andy Warhol Museum picked the best 5 images out of the 100, and Kiwi Arts Group created a box set of 5 images of these, the best images, and these were used to raise funds for the Andy Warhol Museum. There were 50 box sets created, and they were all sold off in Art Basel in 2012, actually in the old Versace mansion where Versace was killed on the steps. And they were sold in for $40,000 a box set and raised over $2 million for the Andy Warhol Museum. Now, what's interesting is when I was approached by Toby from Collectibles, he said, Neil, if we're going to do some NFTs, which ones do you think, should we start off with? So, I thought, well, let's start at the top. Let's pick, just like the Andy Warhol Museum, let's pick 3 of the images that the Andy Warhol Museum picked. And so that's where we started. These 3 images, Andy Warhol looking through the Marilyn acetate, Andy Warhol in the factory on the fire escape steps, holding the Birmingham race riots image, which is strapped onto him with tape. And this was the idea of William John Kennedy. And this is another reason why the Andy Warhol Museum loved these images so much, because the artist was collaborating with Warhol to create these stunning images. And here we have an image here of Andy Warhol's in a field of black-eyed Susans, which I'll tell you the story in a minute. So as I say, we started at the top. We picked these amazing images. These are all in the limited edition series, but obviously they're in the dot fusion. Is that right?
Fusion DOT.
Right. So maybe you can explain. Yeah. So maybe you can explain.
Yeah. No, it's really fantastic sitting here with Neil. I've done it now several times in this environment, surrounded by some of these very special pieces. And what we hope to give a feel for this evening, I think you're already getting it from Neil, is just the nature of the relationship that William John Kennedy had with these very special artists, and the ability to get in situations and environments that I don't think anybody else has been able to take these photographs. And Coinlectables, we feel very privileged to be able to bring these three here to everybody in the Fusion DOT format. What I take from being with Neil and having spent some time now understanding and getting to know Mr. Kennedy and his work and his life is this very unusual relationship that Neil and his partners have had with William John Kennedy, now deceased, but obviously knew him and be able to spend time, be able to put together the film, work with the Warhol Museum, and work with partners around bringing William John Kennedy, his story, his message, his life's work to the general populace. And I think this is very exciting. And for us at Coinlectables, using the DOT technology and the other things that we focus on in terms of engagement with audiences, that ability to engage with the existing and new audiences around these works is definitely a highlight of this project, which we're enjoying very much.
Yes, so that's great, Toby. And another thing that we've been working on, which is also very exciting, and this again is another great opportunity for people to get involved with the William John collection, William John Kennedy collection early, is that before William John Kennedy died, he died in December of last year. In the middle of last year, we were able to secure for him a worldwide book deal. So there's a very well-known coffee table art publisher called ACC Publishing, and they loved the story, and they agreed to do this book. The book is going to be coming out early September of this year. Here's a preview of the front cover, which actually has the picture of the Warhol flowers on the front cover, and it's called William John Kennedy, the Lost Archive, and basically it tells the story which I have just explained to you about all these images that were lost, and they've had tens of thousands of pre-sales already. It's available on all the global websites, Amazon, etc. And I think when that comes out, again, the name of William John Kennedy is going to be right up there, and his importance in the photographic world will be realized. So if I have the opportunity, I'd love to tell you a story about how this flowers image came about.
Actually, please do, Neil, because I must say that having looked at all that is one of my favorite photograph. Now, Loon, could you show a close up of that, because we could really see it very clearly. Perhaps. Yeah, if you can just show
I
us.
don't know if this.
Okay.
I don't know if this.
I just love the colors, and Warhol just holding up, Andy Warhol holding up the flowers, you know, with the colors in the background. I really do like that photo very much, I must say.
So the story goes that when William John Kennedy was visiting the factory on a certain day, Andy Warhol was just messing around with a canvas, painting a canvas, and he said to him, "Well, what are you painting?" And he said, "Well, I'm thinking about doing a series of flowers paintings." And he said, "Really? That's very interesting." And he told the story. He said, "When I come into New York, I drive through Queens, drive through Flushing, and I see this commercial garden of all these wild black-eyed Susans and all these beautiful commercial flowers, which match practically what you are painting. Wouldn't it be fun if one day, you know, we can take your canvases out and have a bit of fun in the fields?" So Andy Warhol said, "Well, I think that's a great idea. Maybe we'll do it one day." Not thinking that literally the next day, Andy Warhol phoned up William John Kennedy and he said, "Let's do it. Bring your van round and let's go and take some photographs." So Andy Warhol rolled up 3 of his original flower canvases. They put them in the back of William John Kennedy's van, and he was with his wife and Taylor Mead, and they literally went out into this field of commercial flowers, and there they were messing around with these original canvases. Some of the canvases, the paint was still wet. I mean, can you imagine? These are works of art that were then sold 50, 60 years later for millions of dollars. And here they were just messing around in a field. So in this photograph here, you'll see William John Kennedy got him to hold a bunch of flowers and stand in front of the canvas. And it actually looks like that the flowers are blending in to all the flowers in the field. And Taylor Mead, who was with him, was literally holding up the canvas. So this was an example of the friendship that William John Kennedy had with Andy Warhol. And these are the images that were created. And in the series, there was about 25 color pictures of him messing around in the field. And this was the best one. This was the one chosen by the Andy Warhol Museum. And this was the one that I chose to launch with Collectibles. And this was the one that is going to be the front cover of the book.
Now, that's very interesting, Neil, in the sense that it is a very candid sort of impromptu shot taken, which became very, I don't know, it just looks amazing, and it's probably going to be worth a lot of money.
Yes, especially when the book comes out, and that is the front cover of the book, and there's going to be, you know, I don't know how many tens of thousands of these books. You know, when you've got it on your coffee table, wouldn't it be amazing to show your friends that you've actually got one of these signed limited edition images that coincides with the book? I mean, that is very exciting stuff.
Well, that's a special point, which we should note. So the photo is signed. The photograph is signed on the front, as well as on the back.
The color ones, it's signed on the front, but it's also signed on the certificate.
The certificate of authentication.
Yeah.
So obviously Mr. Kennedy is no longer with us, so it's very special to have the signatures on these pieces. And as you noted, Neil, there are only 60, so there aren't very many of these in circulation at all. So it's really great.
Very interesting. Now, Neil, I just want to ask a question of you.
Yes.
Why have you chosen to work with collectibles? Besides the fact that Toby's a
Okay,
very
well, that's
man.
that's a good question. First of all, because Toby was so handsome, you see, I thought I'd go for that. Now, so obviously I knew of NFTs, but I'm a bit old school, and I didn't really understand the world of NFTs. And because we've launched this series of images, and we wanted to keep the integrity and authenticity of the product, I wanted to work with someone that recognizes the importance of the actual physical image. And when I was introduced to Toby, it was a perfect fit because the product that he explained, which he was launching, marries the physical product again with the NFT, and which gives the product even more authenticity. Am I right in saying that this technology endorses the product even more?
No, that's right. In many ways, this is a perfect project for us. We've, as many people know, we've spent a lot of time around the legal documentation, around using technology to do several things around transparency, around authenticity, around ensuring that the title of ownership is as secure as it possibly can be, and then using other technology to show a piece in a special way in a digital format. So it's really around the authenticity, the certificate of ownership, and the enjoyment aspects of what we're doing. And increasingly, we're using the terminology digital ownership token, really to reinforce that position in the broader NFT marketplace around having the legal documents, the pictures, and other technology on the DOT, which comes directly tied to the physical piece. So it's a great project to be working on. It's exactly what Neil wanted to do, and I think the second aspect around this relationship is the potential to be able to, with these limited editions, help Neil with the story that he wants to communicate around the Kennedy legacy and the work that he's done. And I think that kind of opportunity is a real privilege for us at Coinlectables to be involved in.
Very good. Have we got more time, Kevin?
Is there? Yeah,
Kevin.
I just want to ask a question from one of the audience. Now, do the buyer of the NFT get anything more than just the artwork? Is there anything more? Does the buyer get anything more than the physical artwork when they buy the DOT?
Well, the buyer gets both the DOT, which denotes the title of ownership to the physical artwork. So on the DOT, as I just noted, there's legal documentation, there's pictures, there's description, there's other technology, and with that title of ownership on the DOT comes the physical piece, and that owner can choose to enjoy that piece in a number of different ways. So it's the combination of the two. The two are tied together. With the DOT, you get the physical. With the physical, you have the DOT.
And on the physical, as well as the photograph and the frame, also comes with a physical certificate of authenticity from the publishers, which are Kiwi Arts Group, and that certificate is signed also by William John Kennedy.
So there's another question. So are there any membership rights or special access to the CEO of Kiwi Arts Group, for example, with the DOT? Like, does the DOT hold any other value intrinsic to the token itself, as in, like, besides getting the art, is there any other value, as in being a member of a club, the holder of the DOT being a member of the club, or having access to the CEO of Kiwi Art Group, or having special privileges when it comes to events or exhibitions held by the Kiwi Art Group?
Yeah, it's a great question. Very, very specifically to these three pieces here, the DOT is tied to those physical pieces, and that's what you get. What comes with the DOT, the legal documentation, the technology, all of that with the physical piece. But really, what we're trying to do here is build a community of interest around William John Kennedy and these fantastic pieces. And as we progress through the year, I think this opportunity to work closer with the Kiwi Arts Group and some of these other great initiatives that have been mentioned, this is why we spent quite a bit of time trying to get snippets of the film that Neil and his partners have put together, and really try to give the potential audience an opportunity to understand that work, with the benefit of being able to further understand it as we progress through the year, as these other initiatives come to light. So I think that's a great question, and it very much plays well with what we're trying to do in terms of working with partners like Neil on these fantastic projects, where it's not just about a transactional, necessarily a physical piece. It's the story that we're telling through the journey.
So on this partnership, perhaps I can get Neil to tell us something about yourself. Neil, can you just tell us about yourself, what you do, how you came into this industry, and how you got involved in this whole William John Kennedy project?
Yes, well, I'm a family man with 4 children, and I've been quite successful in my property business in London. And as a property entrepreneur, I've always looked for ways of finding ways to give back to society, as I've been quite fortunate in my life. And I started off by collecting sporting memorabilia. I collected sporting memorabilia, and I donate these to various children's charities. So I have 3 or 4 pet charities, and that's how I got involved in collecting memorabilia, framing them, and learning ways of how I could raise money through high net worth people at black tie do's in the centre of London. So this hobby established myself a reputation, and I became one of the largest owners of Muhammad Ali memorabilia. So about 20 years ago, when Muhammad Ali sold his image rights, when his wife wanted to raise money so that they could pay all his medical expenses, I was approached by his water boy, who had a large collection of signed images. And he said to me, Neil, he said, you've got a great opportunity to buy this collection of images signed by Muhammad Ali, but there's only 2 conditions, and that is that you cannot market them and you cannot resell them, because he knew that I was donating them to charity. So I got myself a reputation in it was a bit of a coup. I've raised a lot of money for charity, and that's when this is what opened the door for me, for my friend in Miami to say, Neil, this is another great project, and it just fell into my lap. It just ticked my box. And with a lot of these images, again, I've helped raise money for my various children's charities by donating certain images throughout the last 13 years to various charities. So again, it ticked my box. It's nice, obviously, to make some money selling the art, but I've enjoyed actually being a collector as well as being able to enjoy making money for others. So I hope that answers the question.
That's fantastic, Neil. I really, really like your answer. I think you're a fantastic person, and you've been involved in a great industry. And thank you so much for your time tonight, Toby. Is there anything you want to add? Do you want to tell us something about a company that you are the CEO of?
I quite like Neil. Just to make a few comments on this this photograph on my left, which I think is really quite exceptional. And when I walked in the room a few weeks ago, we had a really good discussion around it, and he really, as I think the audience has felt tonight, Neil really brings the passion to the party here in terms of why this is such an important long-term project around William John Kennedy. But Neil, this is a very special picture. We all know about Warhol. And
this image here. I don't know if you can get the concept of the size. This is a silver gelatine photograph. It's 40 by 30 inches. And it's such an important photograph because this was one of the first photographic sessions that William John Kennedy had with Andy Warhol.
Do you want to bring the photograph close to the camera so that the viewers can have a look at it? A clear look. It's quite small in the back.
Yeah. So while he's doing that, I'll tell. So when when William John Kennedy walked in, he saw Andy Warhol just rolling up some acetates, and he said to him, "Why are you hiding these?" He said, "Let's have a look at them." And at first, Andy Warhol didn't want to show him what he was doing. So William John Kennedy said, "Come on," he said, "look, let's go by the factory window. I don't know if you can see, but this is the factory window. And I don't know if you can see, there's a shard of light coming right through the window." And William John Kennedy said, "Come on, let's please show me what you've been doing." Not knowing, he had no idea what Andy Warhol was going to unveil. And sure enough, as he unveiled this acetate, he saw this unbelievable image of Marilyn Monroe, and he caught the face of Andy Warhol behind the acetate, superimposed in the original Marilyn acetate. Now, can you imagine? No one in the world had seen this at this time. He was the first one to see it. He had a split second with his camera to catch that image, and he caught the image as the light shone through the factory window. And if you try to put this in perspective, we're all reading about one of Andy Warhol's silk screens being sold in Christie's in May. And they're talking that this silk screen could reach over $200 million. But if you think this picture, when it was taken of the original acetate, this is the acetate that superseded any silk screen. The silk screens were all taken from these original acetates. So this, you can argue, is even more important in historical terms and in investment terms than the piece that is going to be auctioned in Christie's in May. Would you agree with that, Toby? So this is a real moment in time.
You got three fantastic pieces there for sale. Do you want to tell us how the viewers can buy them, and how they can actually acquire one or all of these pieces?
Sure. So all of these three pieces are to be found on the Coinlectables Metamall site, coinlectables.art, and you'll see them very prominently displayed there. We're proud to have those pieces, and you'll be able to click on each of those pictures, and you'll see a description of everything that's on the DOT, and some great information around the picture. And you'll be able to connect your wallet or use fiat, up to the Metamor site and be able to acquire these pieces. So there's 3 of them on there, the 3 pieces that we've talked about today, and I think they're very special pieces. They're signed with the full description and the full backdrop of the story that Neil's gone through. So yeah, easy to find. Coinlectables.art.
Thank you. Thank you, Toby. Now, I think we've done about 14 minutes. Is there anything else you want to add, Neil? Is there anything you want to say?
I think there's one thing that perhaps you, Kevin, you want to mention, which is a special something for our viewers joining this evening.
Yeah, well, for those who've attended this AMA session, you know, the ones people who have attended and come and watch this fantastic episode with Neil Buckett and his art and his photographs, you can get a memento, a POAP NFT, free of charge if you download the POAP app from Google Play or Apple App Store, and you hit mint. You need a secret word. Then the secret word is Kennedy and Warhol in one word. Kennedy and Warhol. KENNEDYANDWARHOL. One word. And then you hit mint, and you should get your POAP, which is a proof of attendance protocol a badge. And that, I wouldn't tell you what it is. It is a bit of a surprise. It is a very beautiful image. If you can't get it, you please DM us, and we will make sure that you get that proof of attendance protocol badge. And if there's nothing that anyone has to say, well, thank you very much for coming on our show, Neil and Toby. I wish you all have a very pleasant evening. It is evening here in Hong Kong for us, and it is probably late afternoon for you guys in London. Thank you all for attending another session of our AMA. And until the next one, see you guys later.
Thank you.
For attending.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you.